Alicia walked slowly under the warm sun, her books hugged close to her chest. She had just finished school. Like every day, she smiled at the little kids playing outside the bakery. She stopped to help an old woman cross the street. That's who Alicia was. Kind, gentle, quiet. She was 17. She loved books, soft music, and sitting in the park alone with her headphones. She had big dreams. Maybe one day she would become a writer. Maybe she would travel the world. But right now, she just wanted to get home, finish her homework, and eat her mom's chicken curry. But that day, everything changed. Suddenly, 2 black police cars turned the corner fast. Tires screeched. The sound made people stop. Alicia looked behind, confused. The doors of the cars flew open. 4 police officers jumped out. Their faces were cold, angry. "Hands up," one of them shouted. Alicia froze. What's happening?" she asked, her voice shaking. 2 officers grabbed her arms roughly. Her books fell on the ground. A page from her notebook floated away in the wind. "You're under arrest," the officer said. "For what?" "I didn't do anything," she cried. "Drug trafficking. You're going away for a long time." "What?" "No, I don't even drink. This is a mistake." But they didn't listen. The crowd started whispering. Phones came out. People recorded. But nobody helped. Some even stepped back, scared. Alicia looked around. No familiar faces, no one to speak for her. She was shoved into the police car. Her eyes filled with tears. Her heart was racing. Inside the car, one officer whispered to the other, "She doesn't even know what this is really about." Alicia heard it. Her fear grew deeper. At the station, they took her fingerprints, took her photo. She sat alone in a cold room. No windows, just a table and 1 chair. An officer came in. He was tall and had a scar under his left eye. "You know why you're here?" he asked. "I told you already. I didn't do anything. Please, call my mom," Alicia begged. He smirked. "Your mom can't help you now. And your dad? He's long gone." Alicia's lips trembled. She wanted to scream. But something inside her told her to stay quiet. "Just tell us who gave you the drugs," the officer said, leaning in close. "I don't know anything about drugs," she shouted. "I'm not that kind of girl." He slammed the table. "You're lying." Alicia jumped. Her eyes widened with fear. The officer left. The door slammed shut. She sat there in silence for a long time. She thought about her mom, her room, her books. She thought about her father. She hadn't seen him in many years. People said he left. Others said he died. But Alicia remembered one thing he once told her. "If you're ever in danger, whisper my name. I'll hear you." She looked up at the dark ceiling. She closed her eyes. "Dad, if you're out there, I need you," she whispered. Far away, in a quiet apartment in another city, a phone buzzed. It was old, covered in dust, hidden under floorboards. It lit up. Incoming code. ALISHA 911. A hand reached out and picked it up. A man with a beard and cold eyes read the message. He stood still for a second. Then he whispered, "They touched my daughter." He opened a black box under the bed. Inside, a gun, a fake passport, a badge. CIA, John Carter. He picked up the badge, looked at it, and then slowly closed the box. They made the biggest mistake of their lives. Back in the police station, Alicia sat quietly, tears running down her cheeks. She didn't know it yet, but help was already coming. And this time, justice would not come from the law. It would come from a father trained to destroy anything that hurt his child. The room was dark and quiet. The only sound was a soft beep. A small red light blinked on a hidden phone, deep under the wooden floor. Suddenly, a hand lifted the old floorboard. Dust rose. The man's hand shook slightly as he picked up the phone. It had been years since this phone had buzzed. On the screen, one message. ALISHA 911. He stared at the screen for a moment. John Carter, a name once feared by enemies of the country. Former CIA, ghost agent, known for finishing impossible missions, but he had disappeared years ago. Not because he failed, but because he was a father. And he had made a choice: protect his daughter, even if it meant walking away from the world. John slowly sat on the edge of his bed. His beard was gray now, his body tired but still strong. He opened an old box. Inside were the things he thought he'd never touch again. A black pistol, still loaded. A small leather notebook with old CIA contacts. A folded photo of a little girl hugging his leg, Alicia. And his ID badge. CIA operative. Level 7 clearance. He held the photo gently. She called, he whispered. After all these years, she finally called. He stood up, went to the mirror, and looked at himself. I told you I'd come if you needed me. Flashback. 10 years ago, a young Alicia cried in her mother's arms. John stood near the door, a bag in his hand. I have to disappear, he told his wife. They know who I am. If they find you too, you'll never be safe. Alicia ran and hugged his leg tightly. Don't go, Daddy. He bent down, kissed her forehead, and whispered, if you're ever in danger, whisper my name. I'll come. Back to present. John moved quickly now. He used a secret signal to contact an old friend, a hacker named Ray. At midnight, Ray answered the encrypted video call. John. Ray's eyes widened. Man, you're alive. No time. I need everything on a case. A 17-year-old girl. Name: Alicia Carter. Arrested in Hilltown today. Drug trafficking. Ray raised an eyebrow. Your daughter? John didn't answer. I'm on it, Ray said, and started typing fast. Minutes later, the screen showed police footage. John watched as they pulled Alicia from the street. She looks so scared, he whispered. Ray continued. Something's wrong here. The evidence is weak. The arrest was too public. Cameras were already waiting. Set up, John said. Ray nodded. And worse, the lead officer, Detective Brody Kane, known to be dirty. There are whispers he's working with a gang called Red Line. John's jaw clenched. They used her to send me a message. Ray leaned in. You think they know she's your daughter? John's voice was calm but dangerous. They do now. The plan begins. That night, John broke into an old CIA safe house on the edge of the city. He changed clothes, black boots, gloves, a dark hoodie, a face mask. He activated a satellite link. The CIA still didn't know he was alive. He wanted to keep it that way. He pulled up Hilltown's map, police stations, exit roads, court schedules. Alicia's hearing was set for 3 days later. He had less than 72 hours. Back at the police station, Alicia sat in a cold cell. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. Her cellmate, an older woman named Tasha, sat beside her. You don't belong here, girl, Tasha said softly. I didn't do anything, Alicia whispered. They don't care. They already wrote your story. Alicia looked down at her hands. But I think my father is coming. Tasha laughed gently. Your father? He was something else. Special. Tasha looked at her closely. You keep that hope, baby. Don't let it go. Sometimes, the world needs people like you to believe. Midnight surveillance. John sat in an abandoned van outside the police station. He watched through a camera, tracking every shift change, every guard. He watched Brody Kane, the man who ordered the arrest, walk out laughing. John's eyes followed him. I see you. Then he whispered, Day 1. Let's begin. It was a quiet morning in Hilltown. The sky was gray, and rain tapped gently on the police station windows. Alicia sat alone in her cell, hugging her knees. Her eyes were red from crying. She hadn't spoken much since yesterday. No one had come to see her. No lawyer. No mother. No call from home. She was alone, or at least that's what the police wanted her to believe. But outside those prison walls, her father was watching. Detective Brody Kane, the snake in uniform. Detective Brody Kane walked through the hallway like he owned the building. His uniform was clean, but his heart was dirty. He had been working for the gang called Red Line for over 5 years. They paid him to look the other way. Sometimes, they paid him to do much worse. This time, they had paid him to frame someone. They wanted a big message sent to a ghost, a man from the past, a man who had once ruined their drug network in another country. That man had disappeared. But Brody had found something others missed. The ghost had a daughter. In a dark back room, Brody met with Sergeant Lewis, another cop on the gang's payroll. "She's scared," Brody said. "She keeps asking for a lawyer." "Let her ask," Lewis replied. "She won't get one. Not until the judge signs the fake order." They laughed. "And her father?" Lewis asked. Brody's smile faded a little. "If he shows up, we put a bullet in him." Simple. But deep down, Brody was nervous. He had heard stories about a CIA ghost agent, a man who had made entire gangs disappear. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he believed in fear. The honest cop. Across the station, Officer Rachel Kim sat at her desk. She was new, young, and still believed in justice. She had seen the arrest report, and something didn't feel right. She opened the file again. Alicia Carter, age 17. Student, no criminal history, straight A grades. She read the evidence list, 1 bag of drugs found in her backpack. But the bag had no fingerprints. The backpack wasn't tested, and the arrest video was edited. Rachel frowned. She got up and walked to Sergeant Lewis's office. "Sir, I was reviewing the case for Alicia Carter." "Stay out of it," he snapped. "That case is closed." "But sir, I think there's something." "Drop it." Rachel walked away, but she didn't drop it. She went back to her desk and quietly copied the full report to her flash drive. She had no idea that someone was watching her every move. Meanwhile, John's eyes in the sky. John sat in his van, eyes fixed on the laptop. He had hacked into the police station's cameras. He saw Rachel Kim. He saw her take the flash drive. He smiled slightly. "Looks like not everyone in that building is rotten," he whispered. He zoomed in on Brody and Lewis talking in a hallway. "Smile for the camera, boys," he said. He recorded everything. He saw Brody take a phone call and say, "Yeah, we planted the stuff. She doesn't even know why she's in there, just like we planned." John's face went cold. "That's all I need." Inside the cell, that night, Alicia sat with her cellmate Tasha. "Did I do something wrong in my life?" Alicia asked softly. "No, baby. You're just in the wrong place, with the wrong people watching you." Alicia held her necklace. It had a small heart locket her father gave her when she was 6. "I think my dad is alive," she said. "And I think he's coming." Tasha looked at her for a long time, then nodded. "Good, because you need a lion now." Rachel sends the file. Rachel went home and plugged the flash drive into her laptop. She created an email account using a fake name. She attached the report and typed only one line. "This girl is innocent. The cops are lying." Then she hit send and sent it to the only email she found on a dark CIA contact page. She didn't know who would read it, but someone did. Within minutes, a reply came. "You did the right thing. Stay safe. JC." Brody's fear begins. The next morning, Brody opened his locker. There was no noise, no alarm. But inside, taped to the inside of the locker door, was a photo of Alicia as a child, hugging her father. On the back it said, She is not alone. Brody's hand shook. He looked around the locker room, but no one was there. For the first time in years, Brody felt afraid. The dirty cop starts to crack. He went straight to Lewis. He's here. I know it. Who? Her father. The ghost. Lewis laughed. You're being paranoid. But Brody wasn't laughing. He looked at the picture again. They sent a message. He's not just watching. He's already inside. It was past midnight in Hilltown. The sky was black, the streets silent. Inside the police station, most officers had gone home. Only a few night staff remained, sipping coffee, yawning, waiting for the sun. But one man wasn't waiting. He was coming, and he wasn't using the front door. John Carter. The ghost walks again. John moved through the shadows like smoke. Dressed in black, face covered, he was almost invisible. He had studied the building's blueprints, the guard schedules, the camera blind spots. He knew every exit, every hallway, every weakness. This wasn't just a break-in. It was a message. The father they thought was gone, was back, and he was going to take his daughter home. Inside the station, Officer Rachel Kim sat at her desk. Her heart was racing. She had received another message just 10 minutes ago. Tonight, stay low, stay safe. JC. She didn't know who he was. Not really. But she trusted him more than her own captain. She watched the security feed quietly. At 12:17 am, one camera blinked black for a second. Then another. Rachel stared. Is this really happening? She whispered. Backdoor breach. In the back alley, a small keypad blinked red. John pulled out a tiny device and attached it to the panel. Beep, beep, click. The door unlocked with a soft sound. He was in. No one noticed. He moved through the hallways, disabling cameras one by one. In one hand, a silenced pistol. In the other, a small photo of Alicia when she was 5. I'm coming, baby, he whispered. The alarm. Suddenly, a guard walking by noticed a camera was off. Hey, something's wrong with Cam 9. He walked toward the hallway. That was a mistake. A second later, darkness. John took him out silently and hid his body behind a door. He moved fast now. He found the control room. Inside, another officer sat watching monitors. John entered quickly. One move, one hit, and the officer was unconscious. John locked the door and hacked the controls. He turned off all security alarms for cell block B, where Alicia was kept. He opened one door on the screen. Cell 13. Her cell. Alicia's hope. Alicia sat on her bed, still awake. She couldn't sleep in that place. Suddenly, she heard a click. The cell door opened by itself. She stood slowly, confused. Tasha, she whispered. Tasha sat up, eyes wide. What's happening? Footsteps. Someone was coming. Alicia stepped back in fear. Then she saw him. A man in black. His eyes calm. His walk strong. He stopped in front of her cell. He took off his mask. Alicia gasped. Dad. John nodded slowly. It's me. Tears filled her eyes. You're real. You came. I promised you. She ran into his arms. He held her tight. I'm taking you home, he whispered. Escape plan activated. John led Alicia through the dark hallway. Every step was dangerous, but he had cleared the path. Stay close, he said. Wait, Alicia asked. What about Tasha? John looked back. Tasha stood silently, unsure. She helped me, Alicia added. John nodded. Let's go. Tasha followed, but just as they reached the back door, bang! An alarm went off. One of the knocked-out officers had been found. Gunfire and chase. Inhintior locked down. Officers ran through the halls. John moved fast, pushing Alicia and Tasha ahead. They reached the garage. 3 cops waited. One fired. John returned a single silence shot and hit the gun clean out of the man's hand. He grabbed Alicia's hand. Go, go. They jumped into an old police van. John hotwired it in seconds. Tires screamed. They crashed through the gate. Freedom. The getaway. They drove fast through the empty streets. Alicia looked at her father. He looked older, tired, but stronger than she remembered. I thought you were dead, she said. They tried to make me disappear. I did it to protect you. She was quiet. Then she whispered, they were so mean. They said no one was coming. John gripped the wheel harder. They'll pay. I promise. Rachel's decision. Back at the station, Rachel watched the chaos. Sirens. Yelling. Confusion. She saw the alert. Detainee escaped with unknown mail. But she didn't report it. Instead, she slipped the USB drive with all the proof into her locker. Then she quietly walked out of the building. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Brody's rage. Detective Brody Kane arrived 10 minutes too late. He saw the broken gate, the injured cops, the open cell. He punched the wall. He was here. That ghost son of a. Lewis appeared beside him. Now what? Brody's eyes were full of hate. We find him. We end this. He turned and growled. Call Red Line. Tell them. War has started. A cold wind blew across the city. Alicia sat in the back seat of the old van. Her father drove in silence. Tasha sat beside her, nervous and alert. No one spoke. They had escaped. But they all knew the war had just started. A safe place, but not for long. John took them to an old apartment on the edge of town. It belonged to a friend who owed him a favor, a man who had once fought beside him in a secret mission long ago. The place was small, but safe. For now, John checked every window, every door, every wire. He made sure no one was watching. Alicia sat on the couch, holding a warm blanket. I still don't understand, she said softly. Why did they pick me? Why frame me? John sat beside her. His face was hard. Because of me. I hurt someone bad, a long time ago. Someone rich. Someone dangerous. I disappeared. But they found you. He looked into her eyes. I'm sorry I left you all those years. Alicia looked down. I thought you were dead. I almost was. Tasha whispered from across the room. So what now? John answered without blinking. Now, we fight back. Red Line's new plan. Across town, in a hidden nightclub deep underground, the leaders of the Red Line gang were meeting. The boss, Marcus Vane, sat at the head of the table. He was tall, bald, and calm. Too calm. Brody Kane stood to the side, sweating. He broke in, took the girl. Hurt 2 men, Brody said. He's not just any man. He's John Carter. Marcus didn't blink. I know who he is. He's the ghost who burned our Thailand route. The one who killed my brother. He leaned forward. He just made a mistake. He came back. The trap is set. Marcus smiled and snapped his fingers. A woman entered with a laptop. On the screen, photos of Alicia from her school, from the arrest, even from inside the cell. We have her face. We have the tech. We'll find them. Brody asked, how? Marcus leaned back. We let them come to us. He looked at the screen again. Her best friend, her school, her heart. He pointed to one photo, a girl named Maya, Alicia's closest friend. Put Maya in danger, Marcus said. She'll come. Maya's call. Back in the apartment, Alicia's phone suddenly lit up. The screen showed one word, Maya. She gasped. My phone. I forgot it was in my pocket. John rushed over. Wait, don't answer yet. But it was too late. Alicia answered. Maya, are you okay? A shaky voice replied. Alicia, they came to my house. They're looking for you. Please, they said if you don't come, they'll hurt my mom. Then silence. The call dropped. John looked at the phone. It was a trap. That call was traced. Alicia's voice broke. But Maya, she's in danger. I can't let them hurt her. John nodded slowly. Then we go. But we don't walk into their trap. Preparing for war. That night, John opened an old suitcase. Inside were tools from another life. Guns, wires, smoke bombs, maps. Alicia watched quietly. She had never seen her father like this. So serious, so focused, so deadly. He looked at her. You stay behind. No, she said. I'm not a child anymore. They put me in a cell. They called me a criminal. I want to fight back. John hesitated. Then he handed her a small device. This is a GPS beacon. You get in trouble. Press this. I'll come. Tasha looked up. What about me? John smirked. You watch her back. The school trap. The next morning, they arrived at Alicia's school. It was too quiet. No kids, no teachers, just silence. John looked around from a nearby rooftop, using binoculars. Inside, Red Line thugs were waiting. Maya was tied to a chair in the auditorium. Brody Kane stood nearby, gun in hand. He spoke into a radio. Alicia's here. I can feel it. John watched everything. Then he whispered, time to turn their trap into mine. The switch. Alicia entered the school with Tasha through the back door. They moved quietly. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed from the hallway. Come on out, sweetheart. Let's not play games. It was Brody. Alicia took a deep breath. Then she stepped into the light. I'm here. Brody grinned. That's more like it. But before he could move closer, boom! A smoke bomb exploded. John dropped from the ceiling, tackling Brody to the ground. Tasha ran to Maya and untied her. Gunshots rang out. But John was faster, smarter. One by one, the Red Line men fell. Sirens approaching. In the distance, police sirens. Rachel Kim had sent a tip anonymously. The sound scared the gang. They started running. John pulled Alicia and the others toward the exit. They jumped into the van and drove away just in time. Brody's last mistake. Brody lay on the ground, bleeding. Marcus Vane called him seconds later. You failed. Brody coughed. They outsmarted us. Marcus's voice turned cold. You're a cop, Brody. A weak one. You're done. Click. Brody looked up at the sky, knowing what that meant. The Red Line didn't forgive mistakes. The night was heavy with rain, and the road was slick. The van sped down the narrow alleyways, away from the chaos they'd just left behind at the school. The Red Line gang had been dealt a blow, but John knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Alicia sat in the back, still shaken from the night's events. Her heart raced as she thought of Maya, still recovering from the ordeal. She glanced at her father, who was driving with cold determination, eyes focused on the road ahead. She wasn't sure what to think anymore. They were running, always one step ahead. But for how long? The safe house. John took them to an old, run-down house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much. The walls were cracked, the windows boarded up. It looked like a place where secrets were kept. Secrets like the one John had been hiding for years. Alicia stepped out of the van, looking around. The rain beat against her face, cold and relentless. She wasn't used to feeling this lost, this scared. It felt like the whole world was against her. But she wasn't going to give up. I'll be okay, Dad, she said, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside her. We'll figure this out. John didn't respond. He only nodded and led them inside. Locked doors and hidden truths. Inside, the house was dark, with only a few dim lights flickering in the corners. The air was musty, and the silence felt thick, suffocating. Alicia sat on the couch while her father went to a small room in the back. She heard him rummaging through drawers, but she didn't ask questions. Tasha, sitting next to her, glanced nervously around. "What is this place?" she asked. "It feels like we're running from more than just the red line." Alicia bit her lip, not sure how to answer. She had no idea who her father really was, not fully. She had only known him as the man who disappeared for years, the man who'd never been there for her. But now he was back, and his silence was starting to speak louder than words. The secret files. After a few minutes, John came back with a thick folder in his hands. His expression was grave. "Alicia," he began, his voice rough, "there's something you need to know." Alicia's heart skipped. "What's going on? Why are we hiding like this?" John sat beside her. He opened the folder and pulled out a series of old photos and documents. "This is who I really am," he said quietly. "This is why they're after you." Alicia stared at the documents, the name on top making her freeze. John Carter, CIA operative. Her mind raced. "You're CIA?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. John nodded. "I was. A long time ago." He flipped through the pages, showing her photos of himself in different locations: Thailand, Afghanistan, Colombia. Each one was from a different mission, each one more dangerous than the last. "But why didn't you tell me?" Alicia asked, tears welling up. "Why didn't you come back?" John looked down, his eyes pained. "I couldn't. I was involved in something I couldn't get out of. They found out who I was, and they came after me. I had to disappear to keep you safe. But they found me," Alicia said bitterly. "They came after me anyway." John sighed heavily. "I thought I could protect you. I thought I could keep you safe by staying away. But I was wrong." "The truth about Marcus Vane." John paused, as if weighing whether or not to continue. Alicia's eyes searched his face, waiting for the next part of the story. The truth she'd been waiting to hear. "Marcus Vane," John began, his voice low. "He's not just a gang leader. He's tied to something much bigger, something far more dangerous." "What do you mean?" Alicia asked, her pulse quickening. "Red Line is just a front," John explained. "Marcus Vane runs a criminal organization, but it's a cover for something much darker. He's connected to a network of corrupt politicians, business leaders, and even some people within the government. They'd been pulling strings for years, and when I destroyed their drug routes in Southeast Asia, I made a lot of enemies." Alicia's stomach twisted. The weight of the situation was finally sinking in. Her father wasn't just a man on the run. He was part of a dangerous world she couldn't even begin to understand. "So, he's not just after me because of you?" she asked. "There's more to it." John's eyes darkened. "He's after you because of what you represent. You're the one thing I've been protecting for all these years, and he'll stop at nothing to make sure I pay for what I've done." Alicia's mind swirled with everything she had learned. She couldn't believe it. Her father was a shadow in a world of darkness, and she had been living in the light, unaware. The threats escalate. John stood up, pacing the small room. "They'll come for us again. They won't stop until they have me. And you." Alicia stood, her hands shaking. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to end this," John said firmly. "Once and for all." He pulled out a map of the city and marked several locations. "We have to hit them where it hurts," he said. "Red Line has a compound on the outskirts. That's where Marcus is hiding. That's where we can take him down." Alicia looked at the map. It felt like they were walking straight into a storm they might not survive. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm sure," John replied, his voice full of resolve. "We've been running long enough. It's time to fight back." Alicia's decision. Alicia stared at her father. She had always dreamed of having him back in her life, but this wasn't the life she had imagined. This wasn't the happy reunion she had hoped for. But it was the reality now. She had a choice to make: stay hidden, stay safe, or stand with her father and fight for everything he had sacrificed. Her heart beat faster as she made the decision. "I'm with you," she said, her voice steady now. "Let's finish this." John looked at her, pride in his eyes. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, but with Alicia by his side, he felt ready for whatever came next. The sky was dark with heavy clouds. Inside the old safe house, a storm was building, not just outside, but in their hearts. Alicia stood near the window, watching the rain fall. Every drop felt like a countdown to something big. Tonight, everything would end. Her father, John Carter, sat at the table, loading weapons with calm, trained hands. Tasha was in the corner, tightening her boots and checking a small knife hidden in her sleeve. They weren't just running anymore. They were ready to strike. The mission. John placed a map on the table. "This is where they're hiding," he said, pointing to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Marcus Vane built his operation there. Drugs, weapons, files, all of it is inside that building. He looked at Alicia. "If we destroy it, we break their chain. We expose everything." Alicia nodded. "Then we stop running." "No more cages, no more lies," Tasha added. The plan was dangerous. They had only one chance. But Alicia was no longer just a scared schoolgirl. She was her father's daughter. The final hideout. The warehouse sat near the docks, silent and guarded. Red Line soldiers patrolled the area, holding rifles and barking orders. A single spotlight moved across the yard like a slow-moving eye. Inside, Marcus Vane stood in a high office, looking down through the window. His phone buzzed. "Still no sign of them," a voice reported. He grinned. "They'll come. The father is too proud. The girl is too brave. It's in their blood." He turned to a locked cabinet and pulled out a black folder marked classified. "If they reach me, I'll make sure they regret it." The infiltration. John, Alicia, and Tasha reached the edge of the dockyard just after midnight. They wore dark clothes. No lights. No noise. John gave final instructions. "Tasha, the back. Plant the charges. Silent. Fast." "Got it." "Alicia, with me. We go straight to Marcus." Alicia swallowed hard. "Let's finish it." Like shadows, they moved. Past crates. Under cameras. Through fences. A guard turned, but never saw the hand that knocked him out cold. One by one, the red line fell. Silent. The fight begins. Inside the warehouse, alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed. Guards shouted. "They're here," someone screamed. Tasha had planted the first explosive. Boom. A wall cracked open. Fire burst through. John and Alicia rushed forward, clearing the path. Marcus watched from above, furious. "Bring them to me alive," he yelled. "Especially the girl." Face to face. John kicked open the final door. Marcus was waiting, gun in hand. "I was wondering when you'd show up," Marcus said. He looked at Alicia. "You must be the daughter." Alicia raised her chin. "You framed me. You tried to ruin my life." "You were just a message," Marcus replied coldly. "To hurt him." John stepped forward. "This ends now." "Too late," Marcus said. He pointed to a screen. It showed a ticking timer. "The building is wired. You kill me, you die too." It had been 3 months since the fire. 3 months since the night Alicia faced the man who tried to destroy her life. The night she pulled the trigger. The night she saved her father. And herself. But some fires leave scars. And some scars never fade. A quiet morning. The sun rose gently over Hilltown. Birds sang outside a small house at the edge of the city. Inside, Alicia sat at the kitchen table with a warm cup of tea. Her eyes were calm, but her heart was still learning how to breathe again. She wore simple clothes. No makeup. Just peace. Across from her, John Carter read the newspaper. He had let his beard grow out a bit. His hand still shook sometimes when he held his coffee. But his eyes were clearer now. Softer. They didn't need to speak. Some mornings, silence was enough. Back to school. Alicia had gone back to school, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She walked through the halls with quiet confidence now. Some students avoided her. Others apologized. But most just stared. Everyone had seen the news. They knew her story. A few called her brave. A few still whispered. But Alicia had learned something powerful. The truth doesn't need permission. She began helping others who felt unheard. She volunteered in the library. She started a small podcast about justice, youth, and healing. Her voice had once been silenced. Now, it reached thousands. Rachel's new mission. Rachel Kim didn't go back to the police department. She started a nonprofit group instead, one that helped expose corruption in small towns like Hilltown. She called it the Linda Breakers. She hired young investigators, trained them, and sent them into places where no one dared to ask questions. Rachel stayed in touch with Alicia. Every week, she checked in. Every week, Alicia smiled when she saw her name light up on her phone. Letters from Tasha. Tasha had moved out of the city. She wanted to disappear for a while, find peace on her own terms. But she wrote letters to Alicia, real ones, on paper. One letter said, "You gave me my life back, Alicia. I thought I'd never escape them. You showed me that even in pain, there's power. I'll never forget that." Alicia kept every letter in a small box by her bed. John's redemption. John Carter didn't go back to the shadows. Instead, he spoke at schools, telling students the truth about his life. He didn't hide the bad parts. He told them everything. About war. About mistakes. About walking away from the CIA. And about how love, not training, saved him. Heroes aren't perfect, he once told a group of boys. Heroes admit when they're wrong and keep fighting for what's right. TV offers and books. News companies came knocking. TV producers wanted to buy their story. One offered a movie deal. Alicia said no. "This isn't entertainment," she said. "It's my life." Instead, she started writing her own book. Simple words. True story. She called it Framed, Freed, Found. The first chapter began. "I was only 17 when the police threw me in a cell, but they didn't know who my father was, and they didn't know who I would become." A visit to the grave. One rainy Sunday, Alicia and John went to the cemetery. They stood in front of a small stone. It had one name, Samantha Carter. Alicia's mom. John placed flowers down, gently. Alicia knelt beside the grave. "I wish you could have seen us now," she whispered. "We made it." Tears rolled down John's face, silent and soft. He put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "She sees us," he said. They stood there for a long time. Just the two of them. And the woman who held their hearts together, even in death. Looking ahead, on the last day of summer, Alicia stood on a hill overlooking the city. She could see the school, the streets where she was taken, the warehouse that no longer stood, and the future. She wasn't scared of it anymore. Her past no longer owned her. It was part of her story, but not the end.